or good afternoon, I guess depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Jason Sadovi, and I have the pleasure of being the host for our Maximo Webcast today on the topic of introducing Maximo 7.6. I believe all of you know that IBM released a new version of Maximo last Friday, and this webcast will act as an introduction to that features and functionality offered in the new version. I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend today's webcast. I truly hope you find the content both informative and valuable to your organization. For those of you who are new to Ontracks Maximo webcast series, we offer one educational webcast each month on a topic of interest, typically suggested by our clients or past webcast attendees. The purpose is simply to provide some insight into the capabilities of Maximo. Sometimes this is a very specific function, or perhaps a broader topic like today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Jeff Yazinski, a senior consulting engineer at Ontracks. He's a computer engineer and an IBM certified deployment professional with over 6 years of deployment and database experience. His focus primarily lies in Maximo integrations, customizations, implementations, and upgrades. He has worked on numerous Maximo projects involving clients across North America. With that, I'll turn the call over to Jeff. Please stand by.
All right. Thanks for that introduction, Jason. So we've got quite a few slides to go through here today. Obviously, this version of Maximo 7.6 is highly anticipated. We've got quite a few new features and functionality that are involved with this release. So I guess the agenda for today, we're going to be going through some of the release details and considerations. We're going to be going through a little bit of the architecture, what are the server requirements and all that sort of thing. We'll be going through new features and functionality. Certainly not going to talk about all the features and functionality. We'll go through quite a large portion of them. Like I said before, there is a lot of new things in this release, so it's really good. We'll be talking about upgrading to Maximo 7.6. Okay, so we'll talk about the upgrade path, how to get to 7.6. What are the steps that we have to go from version 7.1 to get all the way up to 7.6. Okay, we'll be going through a live demonstration of Maximo 7.6. Okay, so we'll be showing you the new UI, some of the new applications and modules. It'll be a short demonstration, but hopefully it'll give you kind of a perspective and a visual look into the new UI. And then lastly, at the end of the presentation here, I'll open it up, like Jason said. We'll open it up for some questions and answers. Hopefully I can answer a lot of your questions, and then that'll be the end of the presentation. All right, so as Jason mentioned, Maximo 7.6 was released on Friday. So the initial version is 7.6.0.0. The integration framework has been upgraded as well, so there is some changes to that, and it's definitely shown when you go to the About screen in Maximo. The new version does show up. Okay. None of the new industry solutions have been released yet, so this version of 7.6 will be backwards compatible with most of the industry solutions. Okay, so what you see on the screen is taken directly from the Compatibility Matrix. You'll see that 7.6 is supported on nearly every industry solution. Okay, so things like oil and gas 751, that will be compatible with 7.6. Okay, one thing that I just want to note is to put any industry solution into 7.6, you do have to use the solution installer. That is something that's outside of the Launchpad installer. Okay. One thing I recommend you always do is review the Maximo coexistent matrix for these exact version requirements, and I always suggest that. So you'll want to take a look at that. In the new year, there'll be a new fix pack, for example, in 7.6. You'll want to obviously revisit that matrix. All right. So the 7.6 installer has been overhauled. Okay, so it uses a whole new tool. There is 3 parts to this new installer. So the first part is the Launchpad. This is part of the planning and deployment phase of the installation. This is relatively similar to the Maximo 7.1 and 7.5 installer, or sorry, the 7.1 and 7.5 Launchpad. The second part is the installation manager. So this is just another part of it. It copies and installs files. It does the versioning control part aspect of the Maximo install, so it keeps track of exactly which versions are installed. And the nice thing is this is a single interface for everything. So if you need to put DB2 on a server, if you need to put WebSphere, it is a single interface for you to use that. And then lastly, there's the configuration and deployment. This is definitely, a significantly new tool. It is a wizard tool. It's really easy to use. It allows you to do the configuration aspect for Maximo as part of the install. So any of the application server settings, the clustering, the authentication mechanism, whether you want to use internal Maximo authentication or potentially some other sort of method that's supported. And then any of the database and deployment options. All right. So this is the launch pad here. So like I mentioned before, this is for your installation planning and product information. This is very similar to the existing 7.5 launch pad. It allows you to select which middleware components that you want to use. Okay, so you do select what you want, and then the installer goes on to the installation manager. Okay, this is definitely a new component of the install. So you do specify the installation path, any features, additional options that you want to install with Maximo. Okay. And then lastly, it goes through the configuration and deployment. Okay, this is where you actually specify all the options. Previously, this was all in a single tool for Maximo 7.1 and 7.5 installs. So this is kind of a separate wizard tool now. It's very user-friendly. They've made some very significant advancements in this. All right. All right, so some of the release details, some considerations. The administration workstation is now supported on Windows 2012 R2. This is the only Windows server that it does support it on. So if you are running on Windows 2008, you will need to have a new server installed, provisioned, everything that you need to do as part of the server. Okay. One of the really nice features is they have added Linux and AIX support. Okay, as an administrative workstation. So you can go through, you can install Maximo, you can place the files, go through all the setup on a Linux or AIX machine. All right. The new application server support is WebSphere 8553, so that is the version which comes with Maximo 7.6. It's also supported on 8.5. Okay. So any of the older releases also are supported. Okay, so 8.5.x. WebLogic 12c is a supported application server as well. They have changed the Java version. Okay, so Java, the server JRE version is now 1.7. So that is one of the considerations you want to account for. If you do have any custom code, custom Java classes, you will want to recompile them with the new version. Okay. Databases. So DB2, of course, is supported. So 10.1 and 10.5. Okay. 10.5 DB2 is the bundled version that comes with Maximo 7.6. All right. Oracle 11GR2 and 12CE are supported Oracle databases. And then lastly, of course, SQL Server is supported. And the only version that is supported with this release is 2012. All right. Currently, SQL Server 2014 is not supported, but the intent is to have it supported in a future fix pack. IE 8, 9, 10, and 11 are supported, and one of the nice things is when you're using IE 10 and 11, you had to do the compatibility mode. This is no longer required, so you don't need to have it in compatibility mode. All right. Firefox 31. One of the new features with Maximo 7.6 is the new support for Chrome. So Chrome 36 is a supported browser. And then lastly, if you're running on a Mac operating system, Safari 7 is supported. So the browser JRE now, so that, you know, anything that runs applets, so the workflow applet, that now is supported under JRE 1.7. And there's 3 versions that they have it supported with. So 5.5, 6.5, and 6.7. All right, a few new things with licensing. So a couple considerations. What IBM has done with 7.6 is Maximo Every Place is now included as part of Core Maximo. All right. This is for an authorized user, so no additional licensing is required to use Maximo Every Place. So Maximo Every Place is your online or connected mode mobile aspect of Maximo. Okay, so you can have, if you have a connected mobile device that has access to the server, you can view Maximo. And what needs to be done is basically you create a new app in App Designer. Okay, you specify which viewport or what kind of device will be looking at the screen, and then what it does is it visually renders it different than the regular application, so it's suitable on a mobile device. And I've got a couple screens there on this page, hopefully that you can see, which kind of shows how it does look on the screen on a mobile device and how it looks in the App Designer. All right, another licensing consideration is your limited use licenses. So for Maximo 7.6, they've pulled out the clause as, so the company clause, so you do have to specify 3 modules per user. Okay, so this is a big benefit for your limited use license. So you have to pick basically three modules for that specific user and stick with them. So it's not per company anymore. All right, so one of the big changes is the user interface. Okay, so the user interface has a new collapsible navigation menu. This is on the left-hand side of the screen. Okay, what this is called is left-hand navigation. There's a few things that you can do with this. You have the ability to minimize the screen. Okay, so you can minimize it with a button. It's going to push the left-hand navigation screen over to the left. You can click the button again. It's going to bring it back. Okay, all the select action menus have been put into this left-hand navigation screen. Okay, so they're readily available to the user. Any user that logs in is in an app and the left-hand navigation is maximized. Basically, you're going to be able to see all the select action. Okay, on the top left, you do have all your saved queries as well. All right. So like I said before, you know, on the top left, you do have your available or saved queries. Okay, you'll be able to minimize these as well. So if you click on the available queries, it's going to minimize them. Okay. Any common actions? So anything, you know, any common actions basically. So things that are found in the that were found in the 7.5 select action menu will be shown directly on the screen. Okay, and then on the far bottom left, you keep on, there's more action as well. All right, and we'll see that as part of our demo. All right, because this left-hand navigation was introduced, we do have the ability to hide or show it from a system setting perspective. Okay, so you can set it. You can have it set so that it either hides or show it from a system perspective. So if you're used to the select action and you don't want to show it, we can actually hide or show it through a system property. Okay, each user also has the ability to hide or show it by default, as well as a setting in the security group. So there's some options there that we have. Label positioning. So as part of the new UI, label positioning has changed. So any of your labels will be above the fields. Okay. The nice thing about this is it's going to shrink your screen. Okay. A lot of the feedback that we find sometimes is, you know, you start putting a whole bunch of fields on the screen. You have to kind of navigate over to the right on the screen. With the label above it, it does compress the screen a little bit, and it allows you to put more information on there. Okay. This is also a system setting, so if you like to have the label on the left-hand side of the field, you can certainly set it back. Now, you just have to remember this is a global setting. There is no per user setting for this. Okay. There is a new UI skin. Okay. This is called Tivoli 13. So this is the brand new one. When you log into Maximo, you're going to see it. It's quite a bit different. It's not as quite as blue anymore. All of the icons have changed, very similar as when we were on 7.1 or 6.2, we upgraded to 7.5. There was a slightly new skin from the Classic to the Tivoli 09. And once again, we're moving from the Tivoli 09 to the Tivoli 13. So any of the portlets on the screen have changed. It's just a nicer, cleaner look and feel to it. Okay. And just as a comparison, just to kind of show you, on the top right, we had our Classic skin, so this was for 6.2 and 7.1. On the top left is our Tivoli 09, so anyone on 7.5 is very used to this skin. And then in the middle there, we've got our Tivoli 13. Okay, so that's our new one. Okay. One thing to add about the skin is it is a system selectable option. So if you do upgrade to Maximo 7.6, you can certainly use the Tivoli 09 skin if you wish. It is a system property. One of the really nice UI features in 7.6 is our hover dialogues. All right. So if you do have to set it up, and IBM has given us some out-of-the-box hover dialog boxes, but it's fully customizable. It's fully configurable. So this isn't a customization. It's done through XML files in App Designer. Okay. So there's going to be fields on the screen which have a little informational little round box or a circle. You can hover over it, and it's going to give you additional information on that specific record. Okay, so on the screen here, you'll see that there is. I've got my mouse is over the little info box or circle for this specific asset, and it's going to give me additional information about it. Okay, so the nice thing is these hover dialog boxes are fully configurable. Okay, so this is a new system XML for the hover definitions, but you can certainly change what you want to see from the specific record. All right, record edit mode. Okay, this is a pretty cool feature. So what the user can do is the user has the ability to exclusively lock and edit the record. Okay, so IBM has introduced this to hopefully eliminate some of those refetch and try again errors. Okay, so if two users pull up the same record at the same time, one user spends some time filling it out and trying to hit save. At the same time, maybe someone else tries to hit save. Basically, one of the users will get a refetch and try again error. Okay, so this functionality does have to be enabled through the App Designer, and then once it's enabled through the App Designer, a user can go in. There's going to be a new icon in the toolbar. You can lock and edit. You can change it to a lock and edit enabled mode. Okay, this is going to prevent any user from being able to modify, change the record. Okay. So that when locked, the users can't modify or save. So all the fields are going to be basically, if another user has locked and put it into edit mode, a user will go in and try to modify a field. They're not going to be able to. So it's very similar to like all the fields on the record are read-only. And then what else happens is the save button basically goes gray. Okay, so it's not going to allow you to save it. You're not going to be able to do anything with that record. So the records are unlocked or released when the user times out or logs out. All right. So this is going to prevent from records from going stale. They're going to become locked. You know, that you're not going to be able to modify them. Basically, when the user logs out or times out, those records, the locked portion of it does expire. One thing to note, though, with this record edit mode is if you've got, you know, certain system events that are trying to update the record, it will fail on the update. So if you've got escalations trying to update records in the background, potentially integration framework, anything like that, it's gonna still cause an error because that record is ultimately locked. Okay, so if you've got an automation script that's triggering, potentially from somewhere else, it's going to error out potentially because this record is locked. Okay. All right, so integration. So there's some new features and functionality with the integration framework. Okay. One of the big things is you can use automation scripts for processing integration data. Okay, so in Maximo 7.1 and 7.5, you had to, if you needed to do some custom processing or some more complex, you know, data manipulation, you either had to write code, so Java code, and use it as a user exit class, or, you know, if the processing rules could do what you needed, you would use those processing rules. Okay, moving forward in Maximo 7.6, you create a automation script. Okay, so you're going to create a script, you associate it to either the object structure, the publish channel, enterprise service, or invocation channel. And what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to trigger some sort of processing in that automation script to change or manipulate the data. Okay. There's some smaller enhancements with integration framework, so things like, it's just to allow you to aid you in troubleshooting. So there's some small enhancements to message reprocessing, message tracking, so things like that. Okay, that's are going to help you when you're developing your integration or possibly troubleshooting it. All right, so some miscellaneous features. So the work log tab, for example, the work log tab that's on work order tracking, IBM, they've introduced this with POs, PRs, and quick reporting. Okay, so this is a very common request that we see, you know, adding the ability to see a work log tab on the PO. Okay, so the work log tab is going to see any communication events, so emails that potentially go out, or if you want to add just a work log. Okay. So those have been added to those 3 applications. Another new feature is WSTH, or waiting scheduling status. Okay. Previously, this status only could be used with PMs. So you generate a PM in waiting scheduled status, for example. If you created a new work order, that status was not selectable. Okay, so quite often what we had to do is we had to create another alias or handle that waiting scheduled status using a different status potentially. So that is a new selectable option. So if you create a new work order in Maximo 7.6 and part of your process is to put it into waiting scheduled mode or that status, you can pick that. All right. A couple new features. So workflow delegation. So this is a new feature. So previously in 7.5 and 7.6, if you had a workflow, if the user had a delegate, it would just go to that first delegate, and then that's it. With 7.6, what happens is it actually keeps on chaining it. So if you've got one user that has a delegate, and that second user also has a delegate, that workflow record will continue through the chain. Okay? In 7.6, that didn't happen. One of the other new options with that is associated to workflow and the assignments part of it is if the assignment was delegated, you have the ability to have the record also stay with your original assignment. Okay, so if someone goes on holidays, if you're gone away on holidays and a record gets assigned to you and you do have a delegate, it's going to send it to both users or both person records simultaneously. Okay, with if you do select that option as part of the assignment. Okay. So that's nice to have in case, there's a whole bunch of assignments that occur, and then you come back. You're also going to see what is assigned to you when you had a delegate. Right? Oh, one more thing to mention, just in the miscellaneous, I don't go through it too much here, but there's a new app. They've added some functionality revolving crews and crew types. So this is for assigning work. So it's going to give you more flexibility in assigning work to a crew, and those crews do have crew types. Okay. All right. Reporting. So the 7.6, they have significantly enhanced some of the reporting capabilities. All right. So specifically to KPIs, so there is KPI templates now. So what this does is this allows you to simplify the creation of new KPIs. It allows you to reuse common queries. Okay, so if you've got a query that's always being you're always trying, users are always having to put in the same query to create a new KPI, or your administrators, you can put these as templates. All right. KPI Viewer, this is a new application, so it's also found in a new module or a go-to menu within Maximo. Okay, so there is a new analytics module in the go-to menu. In the go-to menu, as you know, from me talking about the UI, is found on that left-hand navigation screen. Okay, so this is a single application. It allows you to view all of your KPIs at once. Okay, you can color code these KPIs. So you hit enter, you're going to be able to see a listing of all the KPIs. You're going to be able to see color codes, so the rows are color coded. It's kind of your one-stop place where you can see all the KPI results. Okay. And there's some minor enhancements to the KPI manager. Okay, so for example, you can now associate a security group to a specific KPI. Okay, so if you do go into KPI manager, there's going to be a new security group tab, and that's going to allow you to associate exactly who gets to see that KPI. Okay, scheduling is a new one. Okay, so you can actually schedule this KPI directly within the app itself rather than the cron task. And then there's some additional functionality revolving colors. All right. Okay, so BERT. So BERT's been upgraded. Okay, so BERT does have a new version. So version 4.3.1 is now used with Maximo 7.6. Okay, so there's some changes that are done with the BERT engine itself. Okay, so this is going to give you better performance and greater flexibility ultimately. Okay, there's improved logging and troubleshooting information as part of your logging application. And one of the things that I really like is you now have the ability to export into an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so there is 12 report formats that we have available to us now. So that list has increased. Okay, so you can now schedule an Excel spreadsheet report, which is really nice. All right. Cognos. So there's some Cognos reporting enhancements with Maximo 7.6. All authorized users do have access to Cognos reporting. All right. This is a separate install. Okay, so you do have to stand up a Cognos server, point Maximo to it. It's kind of integrating to Cognos itself. I always highly recommend it be on a separate server itself. But one thing that you really can get out of the Cognos server is those business intelligence or BI packs. Okay, so IBM has released BI packs with Maximo 7.6. They're really good in my opinion. So they are dashboards for supply chain, work management. There's lots of functionality, lots of KPIs, lots of metrics involved with those. All right. So I find that that's a really good added functionality for 7.6. All right. For From a reporting perspective, ad hoc reports have been greatly improved. So there's some general user experience improvements. Okay, so if you do get your hands on Maximo 7.6, you run an ad hoc report, start creating one, you're going to see the look and feel is slightly changed. Just like everything else in Maximo, the look and feel is a little bit different. One of the big things is there's a calculations, okay? So you can add additional columns to the report with calculated information, okay? So maybe you have, maybe a PM report that a PM forecasting report or something along those lines. You can, you can put a new field on your ad hoc report and then do some sort of calculation. For example, days until work order target start date, okay? You can actually do that calculation in the ad hoc report. Summaries, you can do full report summaries. So these are basically, you can do sum, count, min, max, medium, mode, and average. Okay, so it allows you to do, for example, a total cost calculation. Okay, so you can sum up PO lines in your report. Previously, you weren't able to do this. So in Maximo 6.2, 7.1, 6.7.5, you did have to build a BERT report using, the BERT report writing tool. Now you can actually put those summaries right within an ad hoc report. Okay. Okay, one of the new features, I'm not going to go into too much, but there is something called multi-tenant. Okay, so this is kind of towards the service provider sector. This allows for multiple customers to access and coexist in the same Maximo environment and install. One of the interesting things is they all share the same database, yet the data is isolated and secure. Okay, so this is one deployment, one database, and it hosts multiple tenants. Okay, so they're going to log into the same application server screen. As part of the login, they have to put what their tenant ID is ultimately, and then it's going to log them into their specific Maximo instance. Okay, one of the big things is, as part of the install, you do have to choose whether you go multi-tenant or not. Okay, and there is no ability at this point to switch between the two. Okay, so the nice thing about multi-tenant is that, it's the same instance, allows separation of all tenant data, and then each tenant has their own business process within Maximo, so they each have their own workflows, their own configurations, processes, all that sort of thing. All right. So let's talk about upgrading to Maximo 7.6. Okay, so one of the big things I want to point out is effective April 30th of, next year, any fixes, patches, telephone support are no longer provided for Maximo 7.6, or 7.1. So any of the corresponding components and add-ons are also included in this. Okay, so ultimately, April 30th, 2015, IBM has said, Maximo 7.1 has end of support. Okay, extended support is available, like always, on older versions of Maximo through IBM, but it is at a premium price. Okay, so I guess I would definitely highly recommend, if you are on 7.1, start your planning. Start the planning process to get upgraded to a supported version. All right. So we'll talk about the upgrade path. So as part of the upgrade, I always recommend running the integrity checker at each step. Okay, you want to make sure that you fix all your errors in your current system. Even using things like database configuration, those errors always creep up in your system. Okay, so I always say as part of the upgrade, let's fix those. Okay. The upgrading to Maximo 7.6 is very similar to the 7.1 to 7.5 upgrade. Okay, it uses the update DB process. Okay, the big difference is you want to create a new administrative workstation for the final Maximo 7.6 environment. Okay, so there's the upgrade path there. You want to, if you're on 7.1, we're going to bring you up to 7.1.13 or 7.1.1.13. Okay, then bring you up to 7.5.06 or 7.5.07, and from there you can finally get to 7.6. Okay, very similar to 7.1 to 7.6 upgrade. Okay, the upgrade upgrades all your data. Okay, any configurations that were in place, things, actions, roles, COM templates. The database configuration gets upgraded. So if you've created new fields, all right, those will be in the new 7.6 version. User interface and presentation layer. Okay, so any of those system XMLs, any of the applications, so any changes that you've made, those will show up in the 7.6 version as well. Workflow processes are upgraded. Data validations and defaults. Okay, so App Designer, like I said before, if you put any default information, those are going to be in the new upgraded 7.6 environment. Domains, so any of the validation part is going to be upgraded. Integrations do get upgraded as well. Of course, I always recommend, that's one thing that needs to be highly tested. Okay, and then of course escalation. So any of those, any tools that you use that are out of the box, any configurations that you do through the front end of Maximo will be upgraded as part of the update DB process. Okay. So like I said before, I always recommend a new installation. Okay, make sure you reference the Compatibility Matrix for supported platforms, very similar to what I said in one of the earlier slides. Always take a look to see that, the servers that you're standing up, the databases that you're going with, the app servers, they're a supported version ultimately. Okay, you will have to migrate the database, right, to a supported database. One thing I always recommend too is perform a trial upgrade. Okay, so this is going to allow you to give you an idea of what exactly is it going to take to get to 7.6. Okay, so it's basically we go through the first process. You take a look to see what kind of errors you have. Let's take a look at the database integrity. Take a look to see how many errors you have and what it's going to take to fix some of those errors. Okay, stand up, if you're integrated, stand up kind of a dev environment for your integrations. See how the upgrade took place, okay, for those integrations. Okay, and of course, I just want to point out, obviously, please contact us if you require any assistance. We're certainly willing to help you out and discuss how we can get you up to 7.6 with some of this new functionality. Okay. All right, so we've got about 20 minutes left until the hour. So what I'm going to do is, obviously I'm going to go into Maximo. We're going to go through just about a 10-minute presentation. We're not going to do anything specific. I just want to show you the new user interface, go through a few new things. And of course, one thing I just want to point out, I'm not demoing everything, obviously, in Maximo 7.6. So if there's something that kind of catches your eye, and you want additional information on it, certainly reach out to myself, and I can provide, a demo for you free of cost, obviously, to give you an idea of, what you're looking at. Okay, so certainly feel free to reach out to me for an additional demo or anything like that. Okay. All right, so give me 1 minute here. I'm just going to pop over to my Maximo instance. I'm going to show you and kind of go through a demo. Okay. All right. So I'll just give it a few seconds for you. Hopefully you can see my screen there. Okay, so the first thing, when you log into Maximo, the first thing is definitely it looks different, obviously. So the new UI skin has different colors. Okay, all the portlets look slightly different. The bar on the top of the screen is black now. Okay, and as you see, a lot of the icons are different. Okay, so the same functionality does exist. Okay, so something like your profile still exists up here. Okay, some of that normal stuff, the bulletin board, reports, all that sort of thing, sign out, and then of course our help. Okay, so those are still up there. They do have new icons. All right. Okay. One of the nice things is if you can't find something, okay, you do have the ability to type up here. Okay. It's pretty cool. It narrows down and it finds a keyword for some of your applications that you're looking for. Okay, so if you've got a bunch of industry solutions installed, and you just, for some reason, you can't find it because you've got access to a lot of the applications, okay, maybe it's 3 submenus in. So, for example, safety plans, I can just simply type in the navigation item up here, safety, all right, and it narrows down my go-to menu here. I can click on this, and it's going to take me to my safety plans application. So that's very streamlined. It allows for just a better user experience, which is very nice. Okay. Some of the new stuff. So there is a My Recent Applications. Okay. So any applications that you've gone to do show up in this Recent Applications. Okay. So that's kind of nice and handy. So you can just simply go to My Recent Applications. As part of my presentation, I showed you that there was a new analytics module. Okay, so it does show up in the go-to menu here. I guess it's not so much a menu anymore, but the sidebar. Okay, so analytics is here. There is a KPI viewer. So this is one of the new applications. Okay, so if I click on so for example, I'm going to click into KPI viewer. Okay, you'll see that there's some enhancements here. It allows you to see all your KPIs. Okay, and from a visual perspective, it allows you to change the colors. Okay, so right away, from a user perspective, you can see whether they're, where they're at, basically. Okay, I can go back to my Start Center. Okay, so very similar to the way it was in 7.5. It's just an icon on the top, kind of ribbon up here. Before it was over by where it says Max Admin. Now I just click on the top left. Okay, there's a little button here, okay, minimize section. Like I mentioned in the presentation, you do have the ability as a user to minimize or maximize the left-hand navigation menu here. So I can click minimize, okay, it's going to minimize the screen, it's going to allow me to see a little bit more on the screen, and then I can maximize it if I wish, okay. Very nice. Up here, there is a go-to menu. Okay, so if you've minimized this, okay, you still have the ability to be able to click here, okay, and it does show the go-to menu. All right, so you do have all your applications here, okay, if you do choose to minimize this, because it does take up some screen space, right? All right. So I'm going to just pop into work order tracking here. So go into work order tracking. Hit enter. First thing that you're going to see is the left-hand navigation. You're going to see all your common actions. Okay, so anything that was on the top toolbar previously, you're going to see quite often on the left-hand side here. Of course, security does control these. Okay, so very similar to the toolbars on the top. If you couldn't do one item or you weren't granted access to one of these items, you're not going to see the item, just like before. Okay, your available queries are up here. All right, so if you've got a whole bunch of available queries, you can minimize each section, okay? That's one of the nice things too. You can minimize, so it's going to show a little bit less, okay? They do show up on the bottom here, depending on what you've minimized, okay? Hover dialogues, this is one of the new things as well, okay? So you'll see that there is the little I circle there. Okay, that means a hover dialog has been set up for this specific record or this specific field on work order tracking. So I can hover over top. Okay, it's going to give me additional information about the asset. Okay, this is going to allow us to, quite often what we see is you click into the work order, you select the asset, you click the double arrow, and then you have to go to the asset record itself. Okay, so now you're jumping around between apps. One of the nice the features here is we put on the screen or on the hover dialog exactly what we need to see, and it allows the user just to simply hover over top. Okay, allows the user to be able to stay within the app that they're working on. All right. If I click into the work order tracking, or the specific work order itself, okay, you'll see immediately that all the labels are on top. All right. One of the really nice things is this compresses the screen. Okay, so you get this allows you to have more on the screen ultimately. Okay, if I minimize this here, okay, so this is just the IBM demo database, okay, and you'll notice that right now it's taking up about 2/3 of the screen, or 2/3 to 3/4 of the screen. Okay, previously with 7.5 and 7.1, with the label on the left-hand side of the field itself, you're going to be taking up the full screen. Okay, so this allows you to actually put more things on the screen. Okay, you can pull some of the information up from the bottom. Okay, eliminate some of the scrolling up and down. Okay, just helps for a better user experience. All right. One of the new things with Maximo 7.6 is the map manager. Okay, so you'll notice right away here there was a map tab here. All right, so in 7.5 and 7.1, that map only showed up if you had something like Scheduler installed or Spatial Industry Solution. Okay, so this does come with Maximo 7.6. Okay, this allows you to set up. Basically, it points to either a Google map or a Bing map API, and it allows you to actually, pin and place where your work order is at. Okay, I know you only get a certain amount of API hits on both of those map APIs, so definitely take a look to see what those limitations are. But if I click on the map tab here, immediately you'll see that I've pinned this previously, so this is the location, this is where the Ontracks office is in Edmonton. I've pinned this previously. It shows it exactly where it is on the map. Okay, so you could repin it and everything like that. Okay, what this uses is the service address. Okay, so if you've got service addresses set up in Maximo already, okay, upgrading to Maximo 7.6, if you have the formatted address filled out, okay, what you can do is you click the map tab and it's going to automatically show you where that's at. Okay, so that's a nice feature. It's relatively simple to set up. Okay, so it's quite nice. All right. Well, this concludes today's webcast. I just want to thank everyone who attended today. We trust that you found the webcast of interest and value to organization. We'll be sending out an email which is going to give you a link basically to download the presentation. And of course, hopefully you see on your screen my contact information. If you need to have a follow-up demo, or if you need to just discuss your plan for upgrading to 7.6, certainly feel free to call or email me. All right. Again, I thank you for your time and interest, and we look forward to you online again in 2015. Thank you.